trouble at shipments in the Strait of Hormuz and the rally for corn and soybeans for the reasons that we will discuss here with Jerry Gidel right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry, this week we still are having a lot of trouble shipping oil or fertilizer in the Strait of Hormuz, and we still don't know whether we'll be able to see those shipments go through in the short term in that area of the world, and that still is impacting the agricultural commodities.
Yes, it's been a interesting week from U.S. perspective. Our president has declared a couple times that the war is over, but in reality, we've had some 4 or 5 ships in the Straits of Hormuz and they're freighters, things like that. It's not really oil-directed ones. You don't need to have that burning and they're really not shipping the oil through there at this point on ships. Uh, so, uh, but that feature is definitely still around. We did end up hear of appointment as to the next leader in Iran. It happens to be the son of the previous fella from there, but he did not give his particular speech on the Iranian war with the U.S. He seems to be still injured from some of the attacks that happened over the last the first week of the war, thereabouts. So, interesting situation there with the Iranian leadership at this point. From there, it's always good to feel like the fellow that's supposedly making these statements is the fellow that's actually delivered them, but that hasn't been the case so far. From there, I think the issues involving the current conflict in Iran are issues that have been boiling for many, many years. I think the American and President Trump's perspective is they'd like to see a complete regime change in Iran and that, but don't know that right now the with the Iranian Guard. I can't remember the exact name of the military and portion of the Muslim government over there. Still seems to be in control at this point, and so that's a big feature there, to say the least, on that. So at this point, at least, the markets. Uh, Starting to realize that this is maybe not going to be over in just a flash at this point. But at the same time, the conflict is not definitely the flashpoint it was 10 days ago, but it could turn into a long process, particularly with the Straits of Hormuz being a tremendous choke point on the world economy. Oil is one of them. As we always know, the other one is actually fertilizer that has popped up in this thing. Uh, this is the U.S. fertilizer situation. We don't really depend a lot on fertilizer coming out of the Persian Gulf, but at the same time, we've already got a lot of it in position here. But the price of nitrogen from natural gas and things like that has gone up, and so it's going to have an impact on us, but maybe not the impact that other parts of the world are, particularly China, India, South America. There's a lot more dependence on the East fertilizer shipments than there is here in North America for that particular commodity. So definitely things to look ahead forward to at this point, and both energy prices and also now the impact on fertilizer.
Yeah, so on Friday we saw soybeans drop 2 cents, But there is an additional factor for soybeans. We are seeing that China has started to reject some shipments based on inspections, shipments from Brazil. On the other hand, we are seeing that the Brazilian crop has been reduced by the estimates of CONAB and other consultancies.
Right, right. Combination of things there. Uh, Lots of talk from various private analysts down there that the beans were going to raise up from this uh, 178, 79 level all to 182, 183. Actually, the U.S. government's last number was 180 million metric tons. But I think that the weather situation, the updates we had early last week continue to be 10 to percent or more behind the normal harvesting pace in Brazil, closer to the 50% versus 60% level. That means that the Mato Grosso and the northern areas are, geez, they're up in the 80%, 75, 80% level on that. But the key thing I think is happening here is that this year's uh, many times in the past we've had a lot of heat issues and impacts on yields. This time around, I think the issue has been uh, plenty of rain that's continued to slow the harvest and also damage the harvest and that. And I think that's what's happened with the Chinese. And it's there's always the attitude that China does, is slowing things down, declaring issues, finding issues with the shipment, stuff like that. That's not an uncommon thought to think about in the past. But I think the one thing that they are not excited about, and I think is the moisture content of the shipments they're getting at this point, because they have no more drying facilities in their system than Brazil does, and that, and the U.S. has some, and they really don't like to use them on soybeans. They do it on corn, and that. So that's, I think, is the subtleties of this thing, and to some extent, the data that we got out of Brazil this week on their crop sizes were just there were no increases. There were slight declines from both in Conab's numbers. I think it was 500,000 metric tons back down below 179. I don't know, it's 178, I think it was on that number. Very good number, by the way. Don't sense that that's a number that's dramatically lower than the estimates, but at the same time, it was, I think last year's number is 171 and a half. So, it's still higher than last year on Brazil's output. But I think that's the interesting feature on this thing is uh, how's China get their soybean shipments from Brazil? They're getting slowed down. And to some extent, they might consider utilizing U.S. beans for blending over there as they try to put some of these things away. Their assumption here is that they were going to take these beans from the U.S. and put them into storage because they're going to be, in many cases, geez, they're going to be down there 111 or 12%, which is excellent for longer term storage. And that, but maybe they'll need to blend in with some of the Brazilian numbers, Brazilian shipments that we have going on right now. So, yeah, right. The Chinese purchases of soybeans around the world always have to have some drama, and again, we've got that
But
going
yeah,
on.
but at the same time, we have had some sales from the US that seeing this rally, a lot of people have decided to sell their their stocks.
Oh yeah, the U.S. side of things, yes, this is up to some very good prices, and that I think I mentioned last week about making some sales, and I would continue to offer to maybe even add a few additional ones here on the current values as we're at right now. The overall situation here. we're still looking, as I said, a very sizable and higher production of soybeans in Brazil. And then Argentina at this point, uh, they did slide their estimate down to 48 from 40. Actually, the USDA did this from their number last week. Now we haven't discussed the fact the USDA did have their monthly February report because there really was no change on any of the numbers except a little bit in South America. And that one of them was Argentina going down 500,000 metric tons of their beans. And the corn, soybeans, and wheat in the U.S., they left all their carryover stocks unchanged. And that they're basically, looks like we're punting here, waiting to see what was going to continue to happen out of the Persian Gulf. And so, the world numbers at this point still, assumption is that we're going to get a better crop this year in South America than we had last year, but we haven't really got a sense of where Argentina's yields are yet, despite people's projections on longer term. So definitely world output, things like that is somewhat uncertain, but at the same time, the
So what do you
demands are.
conclude in terms of the opportunities for sale?
Well, I think we've come up into an area here around $12 for May beans and the 460 for area in U.S. corn, and I would definitely recommend that producers have at least half to as much as 60% sold. And I would sense that this market's it's a very important general area longer term. So that's part of the reason why I think we rallied last week and we now bumped back up to it this week on those price levels. From there, at this point, that would be the things that I'd look at right now. The one thing we will get next week is a update on the U.S. soybean crush out on Monday. The trade's looking for a 203 million monthly crush would be another record type situation. Actually, that kind of level would probably give us about 100 million more soybeans processed this year versus last year. The USDA is currently looking for 135, 140 million. So here we are 6 months into the year, and we've got two-thirds of the expansion already there. So I think that could be a factor here going forward. Partly because of the demand for uh, so- soybean oil for renewable diesel in the U.S. and also the uncertainties in the world. They come to the U.S. and get their beans and go home. They don't have to worry about other things going on in the world of transportation on that. Corn, right now we've had some tremendous exports this year, and we're doing well on that side of it. I guess the real question becomes is on the corn, uh, can the world really, in the tensions of the Mid East and uh, get more feed grains? I think a lot of people have already done that already, so there's not as much of a scenario. Wheat is really an interesting one. Uh, we're just kind of now breaking on the northern hemisphere crop sizes and that. And the U.S. is one of those areas where uh, we had such a cold winter back in January and so far there hasn't been a lot of talk of winter kill. There actually has been some freshening of the crop and all that kind of stuff. But I think the one thing is this is still the first days of March, and you can have cold spells come back in until the middle of April or after. And The U.S. crop potential could be froze off again here, have damage to it if we have the wrong front come in from Canada. So we got some uncertainties here in the U.S. wheat output, and at this point, at least, the tensions in the Mid East are still going to be high. longer term. The one thing we also got to keep in mind, we're going to have a summit or a meeting between Trump and Z late days of March, early April, and that, and uh, our officials are over there trying to get things set up for that. Uh, right now, at least. Trump will probably want to have more beans being purchased. He's already offered him another 8 million, I think it is, uh, and that. But at this point, I'm not sure the Chinese think they need 8 million, and I don't know that they agree 8 million to be purchased the balance this year. I don't know if they'll end up doing it, even if they say they'll agree. So, uh, things out in front of us, lots of things to bounce around, but I think there's going to be kind of support under this market as long as the shells keep flying in the Mideast.
All right, thank you.
Take care.